What's going on, everybody? Coach MccDann here. I'll start off this awesome lesson today with a question to ask yourself. How often do you notice when you're able to take a stock in Smash Bros? No matter if that answer ranges between I have no idea and, well, maybe sometimes. Strap in, because today we'll be going over the concept of two-framing and how learning this concept can create an avenue to recognizing these opportunities. In order for us to utilize this concept of two-framing, we must first understand what the technique is first and foremost. To see if your opponent gets hit by the attack on the ledge. Don't go off stage at all for these encounters, but recognize what moves force the CPU to let go of ledge. Two-framing is all about timing. Due to the unique mechanic in Smash Bros. When an opponent is supposed to be untouchable for a small amount of time when grabbing the ledge. The concept of two-framing only happens right before the opponent grabs the ledge, which leaves them vulnerable to getting hit by an attack by someone guarding the ledge, for exactly 2 frames. For those of you who don't know how long that is, that's 1/30th of a second. It's a pretty small window. So in order for us to utilize the concept to our fullest potential, it's best to know what move it is your character can two-frame with. This move is usually any attack that is closest to the ground, so down tilt, down smash, downward angled forward tilt, and even downward angled forward smash. Now, just because it's an option doesn't mean that it's the best one to get the job done. So ideally, you'll want to make sure to take note of your character's fastest actionable moves that can two-frame, which I just mentioned is usually the tilt attacks. Due to the varying intensity of attacks between each character in Smash Bros., some characters get different results when successfully two-framing an opponent. Some knock the opponent off the ledge, setting up for a perfectly placed attack off stage to follow up with, and others can just flat out take stocks. You'll want to make sure that if you have a character that has a hard time two-framing with their tilts, to still try and make sure to use them when attempting this concept. So now that we've gone over this understanding of two-framing, let's set up a situation to practice this concept. Let's jump back into a game with a CPU with a level you're comfortable with, and for 3 games, see if you can two-frame them. Don't be discouraged if you can't successfully get it done. This drill is just to help you practice what it looks like with your character. After this drill, we'll go into this concept's pros and cons. Depending on how your past 3 games just went, you might be able to recognize just how complex actually executing two-framing can be. It is best utilized for an opponent who is running out of resources off stage, something that I also covered in a previous guide if you haven't checked it out already, as well as characters that rely on landing back to ledge when immediately going off stage, like Little Mac. However, two-framing becomes a bit tricky when dealing with certain characters and their abilities. Characters that tether grab ledge are not nearly as capable of getting two-framed, as they turn invincible the second they pull themselves to ledge, unless, they don't tether grab. And some characters that have extremely fast or even invincible recoveries can make landing a two-frame move that much more of a difficult task. So it's best to recognize that characters that have recoveries that also count as attacks can offer a layer of protection for the opponent making an attempt to recover to stage. So when practicing this concept, it's best to understand that if you can predict how an opponent's character can recover, you will be able to punish accordingly. Alrighty then, we just went over the entire concept of two-framing opponents. For our last scrim today, play 5 to 7 games with a friend, family member, or a CPU with a level you're comfortable with, and attempt to land 2 frames as much as you can. When learning this concept, it's important to not get too predictable and greedy, as this can lead to you getting less value out of the concept to begin with. But allowing yourself to recognize when you could two-frame an opponent is just as important as landing the technique yourself.